a front row seat in watching a mortgage broker build a $100 million business from scratch? If so, you buckle up. You're going to want to listen to this episode. Hey, I'm Scott Peckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast. And today on the show, I'm launching a new series. It's going to be a monthly podcast and YouTube with my buddy Nate Atkin as he builds his business to 100 million in production. He is in about a year and a half in the business, did 38 million last year, and his goal is to hit 80 million by the end of 2026. And Nate is a firecracker. You're going to find out of a human. And I've had him on the podcast in the past. You can go back and listen to the previous episodes. But the guy is an absolute hustler. And so this is a unique type of show. It's a little bit longer, but in it, what I'm doing, and this one, I talked to Nate about his background, set some context. He's a smart business guy, find out where he's at right now, where he wants to go. And then we talk about what problems he's trying to solve in the next 90 days. And then so it's quasi coaching conversation. And I absolutely love this conversation with Nate. And if you want to scale your business, you're going to love being able to sit front row and watch, listen in, and just look over the shoulder as we do this over the next 12 months and see what Nate was able to accomplish. And yeah, man, I got to tell you, I'm loving this conversation. So this is a longer episode. Things we talk about today are his background, how he got his business up to where it is, another business that he built that's very successful that he runs on a little bit of time per day. What does his day look like? So how is he able to run this successful business? And he did 38 million last year, and how's he going to get to 80 million? So what does he do in the morning, in the afternoon? What's that look like? And we just dive into the weeds, and we get very, very tactical in these conversations. You're going to want to listen to this and share it with a friend. I'm very excited about this series. Before I jump into this, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Ownwell. Ownwell is an amazing tool for Canadian mortgage brokers to build relationship with their past clients. It sends out a monthly report that shows buying power and home equity, creates a lot of conversations around what can I do with my home equity. And the open rates on these are 60 to 80%. You can check them out at ownwell.ca and check out this conversation with Nate. Hey, Nate, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
So I'm really excited to have you on. I've had you on in the past, but you and I are going to be doing a series in this next year where you're going to grow your business, and we're going to walk alongside you, and you're going to share the ups and downs and the wins and, everything that works and doesn't work. I'm super excited about this. So before we jump into it though, I'd like to get some backstory on you, how you got into the mortgage business, how long you've been in it, so people can know, and then that way they can catch up as we do this series over the next year.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Scott. I'm super excited about this. See if we could dump some value into some people. So I grew up in a family of essentially real estate, kind of everything, right? I had when I went to university, I came back. My father, he owns and runs a property management company. So growing up from a young man, I was always around real estate, pretty well my whole life, no matter what it is, development and real estate. So I kind of went into that road first in my 20s, right out of university, went into property management, development, and kind of engineering sciences, everything to do with development management. I really did fall in love with the engineering side of things, the acquisition side of things, the REIT side of things, but, hated the management side like anybody else. Property management, no interest in that. So, one thing led to another, and I learned how to invest in properties, buy properties, acquire real estate, and built a little bit of a real estate portfolio in Canada. And I'm a dual citizen, so I went down to the States. I've done the same thing down there, and was always around real estate. And I did end up getting my mortgage license early on, didn't use it. I'm the type of guy that until I can go all in on something, I'm not going to go in on it at all. Kind of had it there, knew I wanted to use it. And eventually the time came where it made the most sense. I had one business I was selling and another one I was kind of slowly delegating. And I was like, okay, now's the time. So when that time came, I joined one brokerage because it was convenient. I had a friend that owned this real estate brokerage, and I had used them to do my mortgages in the past. Didn't work out, wasn't a good fit. They're great guys and all that kind of stuff, but just not a great fit for somebody who was starting and looking to build like I was. They were already somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And so, found BRX, and the rest is history. Right. Our podcast series begins.
This podcast series begins. Yeah. When did you join Bricks? How long ago was that?
So it's been just approaching 2 years. I think it's been about a year and a half.
Okay. And then tell me about that first year. How did it go in terms of your production and stuff? And because we got to set the stage for kind of where you want to go, right? Too. So that's why I want to talk about that.
No, it makes sense.
And you're an open book. So the great part is like, hey, you're.
Yeah, you got it, man. You ask me anything. I think the reality is that even to take an even further step back, why Bricks and how I found out Bricks was, I was a big fan of the podcast, listening to the Rookie to Rockstar program that intrigued me. I didn't know too much about the back end of the brokerage and the main philosophy, but I did know that I had a couple friends that were already there. I knew that the Rookie to Rockstar program for me, I wanted to be humble. I wanted to learn from the ground up. I wanted to start off as if, even though I had already done files, I'd been a mortgage broker already. I had several mortgages myself. I wanted to learn from the very, very beginning. So I knew that with the program that BRX had there, I said, listen, I'm going to come in here as a rookie, start at the very beginning, and work my way up. And that's where it started, right from the ground up. Didn't really know necessarily exactly where I would fit in terms of, am I going to do business for self? Is it going to be first time buyers? Like, where am I going to fit here? I just knew that I'm a savage sales wise. I know that I got a work ethic that's unmatched and discipline that's unmatched. So I just said, let me learn from, the system that Scott's built. And, I kind of took it from there.
Right. Okay. So prior to coming over, how many mortgages do you think you had funded?
Less than 10.
Okay. And then what was your first 12 months like? Do you remember?
Oh, yeah, very well. I know that, we did a podcast, and I know that after, I think 120 days, I had $12 million in my pipeline. And that was essentially from following a specific protocol given to me. It was like, don't F with the system, right? It was like, here, Nate, here it is here. I already had a big network of realtor friends, and that's
but they weren't referring to you yet.
Right? No, I was straight friend zone, zero business, not even close. It was just like I knew them all. Yeah. So it was a matter of taking that from one step to the next and learning how to convert that from friends to business.
Right. Okay. And then, so that first year, how did it go in terms of like your first 12 months? Okay. And then this last year, I guess, or where, I'm not sure where those, because it's a year and a half, is less than 2 years. So it can maybe catch us up so that we can set some context.
Yeah, most definitely. It was a steady climb. It was, it was kind of like not an exact hockey stick, but it was kind of like a little bit slow. And then eventually the hockey stick hit. I was setting seeds, planting seeds early on with the 4-slide presentations, with connecting to realtors, doing very consistent and regular reach outs, calls, Loom videos, weekly Friday value videos, all that stuff consistently. And then, confidence built. I really, really, really learned how to hone in on satisfying my realtor partners and really, really making sure I could take care of the clients. Built a CRM, built a database, and with all that, it's amazing. You snap and you blink, and here I am now sitting in an office that's mine, and it's kind of like I went from pretty well nothing, progressed into 15 million, 20 million, 30 million, and then it'll probably end up being about a $40 million a year,
right?
In and around that number, 38. Yep.
What is your goal for 2026? This is January, we're starting this. So what's the goal for 2026?
I'm very happy to declare that my goal as a mortgage broker is I want to hit 100 million. Like I said to that from the beginning, my goal is to get to 100 million. I don't even want to start counting until I get there. That's going to be like the starting point. And I think a realistic goal would be to double my last year's volume. So to go from 40 to 80, and really on the trajectory so that 100 is right within reach.
Right within the next year, you roll into 100 million. Okay, so the goal is we're gonna hit the end of this year at 80 million, but the path is, and what I'd love to do with this series, Nate, is to keep following you till we hit 100. So if it takes us, instead of 12 months, if it takes us 15 months or 6, like let's just keep going and see what you learn. And so maybe again, just that we want to make this useful. It's not like, hey, a couple things. I don't want people to be like, oh, we're on here to just brag about how good Nate's doing. Nate is a worker. Like, one of the things I love about Nate is that, you've been lifting weights talk about how one area in life can translate to another. You've been training and lifting weights for years and are very disciplined. You just applied that same philosophy to this other business, right? Would that be correct?
Extremely correct. I would say that the biggest part of me as a human is not mortgages at all. In fact, the biggest part of me as a human is that one piece that I've learned through years of discipline and failing. So yeah, a big part of my life is fitness, working out, health. But I truly, truly believe that how you do one thing is how you do everything. Like, I teach my kids to wipe off the seat, to pick up garbage on the road. It's like literally how you do one thing is how you do everything. And I've only learned that from years of building businesses and failing, and coming into a place now where there's a maturation where it's like, do the work. It's the daily tasks, the small, tiny little things that just compound, that, they get boring and they get
I tell people that most successful businesses are Groundhog Day. It's not exciting. Like, you may think, oh my gosh, it's exciting. No, it's the same every day.
It's not just business. It's life. You talked about fitness a second ago.
Yeah.
You talked about working out. I've been working out for, I'm 44. So I've been working out for, 30 years, right? I've been working out for 30 years. And, people see me at the gym and just assume, oh yeah, you're in good shape. How long you done this for? And it's just Groundhog Day for 30 years, and that goes for everything in life. Family, you want to be a good husband, a good father, a good wife, a good anything. It's just Groundhog.
I have a question for you on that, even though because I think it's mindset related, and I love mindset stuff. How do you? And maybe this isn't a struggle for you. How do you not get bored, and how do you stay motivated? Because a lot of people listening to this would say, yeah, I know on paper that makes a lot of sense, but man, I struggle with it. So how do you not get bored, and how do you not lose motivation?
Great question. And the answer to the first question is I do get bored, right? I do. We're humans. So I'm like you, like it's easy to get shiny object syndrome. It's easy for me to bounce around. It's like I'm a high octane kind of guy. So I see something over there and I want to get it. But, the way to do it is to really, really clearly identify, the why. Really, we talk about that a lot, but it is very powerful. So why you're doing it, and make sure that you have that North Star that's always there shining for you, so that whenever you do have those days, they're like, which comes every, a Tuesday morning in February. You don't want to make the calls. You don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to get out of bed. But, that North Star is there. And if it's strong enough and you remind yourself about it, you keep going for sure, without a doubt. And once you start to get what you're making progress and you see results, the motivation is in the results, right? That's the truth.
So, okay, can I ask you, how did you determine your why because you've already had maybe before, I'm going to pause for a second, your previous business, you built a business that was something to do with window. Maybe just talk about that. The reason I want you to share it is because I want people to understand that you're a business builder. It's not just a lot of people get into the mortgage space and maybe they can sell mortgages, but where they fail is actually they don't know how to become a business. They don't understand about building a business. Let's talk about that first, and then I have some other questions. So tell me about what that one in particular. I know you've done other things, but tell me about what you did there.
Yeah, great point. A lot of people end up signing up for a job that they spend 80 hours a week doing, and they thought they were going to be building a business. You're right. So I when I was working for the family business property management for years, I was tendering all of our construction projects and realized there was a gap in the field of aluminum windows and doors for high-rise buildings. And at the time, I approached a concrete contractor who was a good friend, personal friend of mine. He owns the company. And I said to him, listen, I'm thinking of starting a company to do aluminum windows and doors. He knew my background in business and in engineering. And he said, okay, listen, put a business model together for me to look at, and we'll see if we partner up together or not. So I went out, dedicated the time, built a business model, presented it to him. And then he said, yeah, okay, let's do it. I said, you don't need to do anything, but just make sure that I don't fuck up. That's your only job. I'll put in all the capital. I'll do all the work. I just need you to be my business mentor. Right. So I started the company, aluminum window and door company. And after years of dedication, 5 years later, we had contracts with some of the biggest REITs across Canada. And, to this day, after a lot of successes and a lot of failures, I still own that company 100% and still run that business. So yeah, there's a history of business.
And so you've got people how many people work in that business?
There's about 30 people that work in that business now, whether it be from installers to sales to everything across the board.
And then do you mind sharing what kind of gross volume does that kind of business do? I know there's a difference in gross in it, but what's that look like? Just to give a sense of scale.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we used to do quite a bit more than we do now, right? I've slowly been delegating it, peeling it down, selling some pieces of it off. But there was a time where we were up into the, $30 million range in revenues. And now we're a little bit below that. But yeah, we're kind of in that range.
Yeah. So, okay. I share that because one of the things I find with mortgage brokers that get good at the brokering side of it is they don't know they don't understand how to build a business. And then they get stuck doing everything. It's kind of like that quadrant Robert Kiyosaki talks about: employee, self-employed, which means you basically work for yourself and you do everything. And then you become a business owner, which is the business works for you. And then you become an investor. And so you've been able to build a business in a separate industry. And now you're in the mortgage space. What skills that you learned from that are you applying to your mortgage business? What are some of the things that you're now applying to building this $100 million mortgage business?
Great question. The first piece is the mindset. The first piece is kind of anticipating and knowing that there's going to be days that are going to be very difficult, and be able to know that if you fail or if you run into a roadblock, it's just an opportunity for you to pivot and go another way. That's the biggest thing, is the mindset. And then of course from there, as far as actual tactical skills go, now that I know that I'm building a business and not a job, right from the beginning, my strategy was, okay, I need to start to create a client journey. I need to put a CRM in place. I need to implement a tech stack that is going to make sure that it will allow me to have as much time as possible. And you've helped with this immensely personally, Scott, working in my zone of genius so that everything else that is not my zone of genius can be either delegated or can be done through automation or what have you. So it's just building that business rather than sitting in front of a computer working on the files myself.
And thinking you have to do everything yourself, right? Because that's what ends up, a lot of times we start out and I find mortgage brokers will have this, I can't let anybody touch the file. They're going to screw it up. Nobody else can pull credit like me. It's not true, of course. Nobody else can order appraisals. And they end up getting stuck. And it's okay. And if you want that, that's okay. But then you're not going to build a business. You're just going to have a job that as soon as you stop, it's gone. And so, okay. So I want to go circle back something you said earlier. You said when you have these days that are boring, or you do get bored, motivation comes because you just build on the momentum, but the why matters. So you've built a successful business. Why do this? I mean, you're 44. I'm not trying to talk you out of it because I think you're doing great, but why would you decide to get into mortgage brokering and decide to build a big business?
Yeah, excellent question. I think it's twofold there for me. One is going to be, I like the challenge, to be honest with you. Yeah. After doing it for quite some time, I do kind of really enjoy taking on challenges and something new. I feel like I will do this forever. I feel like in terms of build it to a point where it's successful, either delegate it or sell it and go to the next thing. I really feel like that. Also, you become good and proficient at building businesses, quite frankly. I mean, you can relate to that, right? Once you know kind of some of the obstacles you're going to face, you're not scared of them. They're no longer landmines that you don't see. So that's one reason. The other is that I have a new decade of my life that I'm starting, which is going to be, I have older kids. And so for me, my kids expressed interest to me directly. They've always been around everything I've been doing forever. But, my oldest son came to me and was like, he was already in a sales industry right now. He graduated from university and he's like, he showed interest in wanting to come work for the family business to an extent. Like I have a Hummingbird Capital Properties as well. We have a real estate company, but he wanted to get involved with mortgages and financing and things to that extent. And I said, well, this is great. So literally now he comes in with me. He got his mortgage license and we're doing this together. Greatest joy of my life is when he comes in here on Tuesdays and spends the day with me. And I'm going, I could do this forever. Every second spent with him now that's a new why. My other why was, I can get into other stuff with my wife and that kind of stuff. And now that my son's here, it's a whole new why. I got all these new whys.
Right. Okay. Something that I've noticed about you is that you're extremely coachable. I mean, you started that other business, you found somebody, a mentor, and said, just keep me from screwing up. You came into you literally followed the program to a T, the recipe, and compressed the timeline. And if I'm honest, in my 30s, I'm 50 now, but in my 30s, I was not coachable. I would take coaching programs and I would be like, yeah, but I'm creative. This was I'm going to just change. And wouldn't you know, it never worked. It was only when I turned 40 that I truly became coachable. Have you always been coachable, or is that and just been like, hey, I want to, or because if you are, you're just obviously it makes you smarter than me, or is that something you've had to work at?
No, that's a great question. I think it's a combination of two things. One is I grew up in a competitive team sport environment, right? I played very competitive hockey and that kind of stuff. So I was always taught to be coachable. The good players are coachable, and the scouts like coachable, which meant that it was kind of indoctrinated into me to be coachable, to listen, to absorb, and then to implement. Yeah. That started off early on.
What position did you play?
I started off when I was younger as a defenseman, then I converted into a winger.
Okay. I played goalie, and goalies are weird, and that's probably perfect for me. We're not really team players. It's like, I just want to do my own thing.
There you go. That says a lot. There we go here. Yeah. The therapy session starts here. Yeah. He was a goalie. Okay, now we know. Right?
Hit in the head.
Love it. Yeah. So, part of it is just growing up in that atmosphere. And the other part, you mentioned a minute ago, age. It is true that with perspective, I think that maybe I did mature earlier than most, but in my 20s, especially when I was in a family business, I'll say it right now quite transparently. I think that I was probably more difficult for my father and the people and that he had hired for him. I probably presented challenges to them. I think that I probably pushed back a little bit because it was a family business, and I didn't listen nearly as much as I should have. And there's a reason why I expired there in that environment, right? And I think I probably look back and have some perspective and say I would have done things differently. It wasn't as coachable then.
Right. Okay. It's interesting. So when I'd seen what you'd done through the program, and I'd reached out to you, and I knew that I saw your Instagram and you're in a, so then I said to you, okay, I think this was a year ago. I said, give me a workout program. And so you gave me you called it the Brick Spod, and you sent it to me, and it's and I just, and again, this has been so good because seeing how coachable you are has actually made me, I'm just going to do what he says. And I don't question it. I remember one time I was like you had me doing, and I don't, the sequence of the exercises, the stacking, I don't understand it. I just trust that Nate with his 30 years of experience knows more than me. And I'm just going to follow it. I remember I was reading about how you should do leg curls before squats. It does something. It was a whole bunch of scientific. And I noticed in the workwork program, I was like, I'm like, this is weird. Why am I doing this? I don't know. Nate told me to just do it. And then like a week later, I see on Instagram, it's like, hey, there's a study that shows that. And I'm like, of course, Nate knows this. And so this is the thing about getting a mentor or somebody that knows, that's been there or knows their stuff, is you don't have to think about that. Like I just trust the person. I trust that you know what you're doing. And dude, I showed my workout to a buddy of mine and he's like, you have to be on TRT. Like, what are you taking? And I'm like, I'm not taking anything. And he's like, he was shocked because, but if you know what you're doing, you know how to design it. And I'm not on anything. I mean, I'm saying I would never do that, but I'm not at the moment. And so, but he was shocked that I was doing these programs, but because you've know so much experience, the way it's engineered makes a difference.
Yeah. I mean, I can equate that to your knowledge with me and being a mortgage broker, right? So as far as fitness goes, yeah, I mean, I have the 10,000 hour rule. I've got 30,000 hours of it. Plus I'm also married to the absolute queen of everything to do with fitness and integrative health. So, I mean, it's second nature to me. I literally sit at the gym sometimes and I can equate things so quickly. And I can put things together that I see other people doing that are wrong right away. It's just second nature. It's like when you and I speak and I say to you, Scott, you're like, Nate, tell me what's the next step for you? Where are you here in your business? And I'll say something and you'll say, well, have you thought about this? What about that? Have you ever thought of like the dentist approach where you're the dentist and you come in the room and everything else is set up? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So you do the same thing with mortgages and building a business around mortgages that I do with fitness, right? So that's that don't F with the system. Find the mentor, listen to them approach. And now we both can appreciate that in different ways.
And each from each other. Okay. So what do you think then? So the goal is to get to 100 million. What do you think right now is your current biggest challenge? Now that people have contact, what do you think is your biggest challenge that you're going to need to solve in the next 90 days?
Great question. It's even changed in the last few weeks. You and I spoke not too long ago and talked about how I do need to, my next hire needs to be like kind of like a full-time underwriter that has the capacity to handle like files front to back. That I know for sure. But even in the last couple of weeks, I realized that I didn't think of this before. I just thought of this recently, that coming into the holiday season, like I was really, really busy, had lots of files, things completely tiered right down and got really, really slow, right? So I had to make sure that I ramped up my lead gen still and reach out. And, I built obviously a steady base of partners, but things slow right down. And I'm thinking to myself right now, this very moment right now, if I had an underwriter full-time paying them a salary, they probably have more time than I would want them to right now, this very second, even though now, this week, now that we're back into January, things have really ramped back up again. But I think that there's a new problem I just found, which is the fun part of business. And I got to figure out a way to make sure that I keep that lead flow very, very consistent, right? If I'm going to be the guy, like we talked about, where my zone of genius is communicating, bringing in business, sales, all that kind of stuff, I got to make sure that I'm keeping that fed constantly for this underwriter that I need to hire next.
So there's a couple of thoughts I have on that. It's a good insight that you had, is that there are going to be periods of the year where it's going to be slower. And so there's two things that I think there's a couple of things you can do with that. One, obviously, when you have an underwriter, you're going to see less dips because you're going to have more time to prospect. You're going to just be able, and it doesn't mean you're not going to take breaks. So that should go down. But the second thing is that there's going to be other parts of the business that you're going to want to take time to retool and improve. And sometimes your underwriter is not going to have time to do it until you have. So that slow time doesn't mean not productive. It just means, okay, we're going to sharpen the axe. There's some processes we need to clean up. I want the SOPs dialed in so that when we hire the next person, it gets even easier to train them. So it's like, it's not wasted, in my opinion, especially since you know that all you have to do is go back out and shake the tree to get more business. And so and then the other thing I would say mindset wise is that when you do have a slow 2 week, you're only paying people for 2 weeks at a time. So if you got a salary of $80,000 a year, let's say, it's what the cost was the 2 weeks. So it's not like you're writing this check for 8. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm paying them 80. No, you're paying them for 2 weeks. And then the third thought on that is that it's also an opportunity for them to take some time off. So if it's not retooling and sharpening the axe, it's like, okay, look, I want you to take some of your time off right now and catch your breath and spend some time with family. So then again, it can be okay. But I also think that realistically, when you have more capacity up to that time, you're going to have more. There's going to be more going on, so it will go up. So that's just my thought on that. But so okay, how's it going with underwriter search?
It's going well. I think that I spoke to three, I put it out there. I spoke to three people so far. And I think that one looks like they'd probably be a really good fit based on the discussions that you and I had on things I need to ask, structure, and then the type of personality that person is going to be really important, right? They can't be a Nate, right? They need to be.
You don't want to, like, as much as it'd be exciting to hire you, it will be a nightmare for to hire you.
Yep. Great advice. Yeah, great advice you gave me. You can't have two of me's, right? And eventually they're going to want to do what I'm doing, and it just won't matter.
And then they're going to be gone, and you're going to just be training somebody that's you're going to compete with, or that. And so, okay, so you've had three people, and have you thought through, like, again, I'm going to get in order again to make this useful for listeners, I want to get into some of the weeds. Have you thought through, like, compensation? Like, you don't have to give me exacts because it's public, but like what your thoughts are on that and structure and stuff?
I've given it thought, based on our discussion that you and I had last. And I think that in order for it to be realistic with this particular person, it's going to be a salaried role. It'll be something that bring them in and pay them fairly for their time, not kind of like piecemealing it on them, so that they're committed, they're in, and they're locked into the company, if you will, as an employee, as opposed to just kind of like piecemealing it off hourly or per file. And then maybe they're doing files for somebody else or themselves, and then they're more committed to that than to mine. It's kind of like, if I'm going to make the leap and do this, it's like, let's do it right, do it properly, make sure that the person is extremely happy, very supported, very comfortable. And then that way,
and then give them an opportunity. This, I'm sure, but you're going to give them an opportunity for an upside from growth and stuff, so that it's salary plus some opportunity, right?
Most definitely. Yeah. And that's even a VRX model where it's kind of like you're incentivized to a great extent, more so than just the dollar, for sure.
Yeah. I think one of the things, and people listening, you may be like, well, I've done piecework or I've hired people. That can work. But usually if you have an ambitious goal like Nate, it is a temporary solution, because you can end up with a piecework. Or I know a guy, a very successful broker, who was paying a percentage of his, I think I told you this, but saying a percentage of his files to this person working for him. And he wanted to hire someone else because he was so busy, but he couldn't, because this person wanted to get, that person's like, oh, I'm going to get paid less money. And so it became a bottleneck. So instead of having a salary plus a bonus, this percent model turned into a bottleneck for the business. And so it's why it's important to think through, back to like I talked about, leg curls before squats. There is a certain structure that is more efficient. If you've seen this enough times, and it's the same thing with the mortgage business, if you have intentions to scale and grow, having salaried with bonus is the way to go.
You alluded to something very important there for the listeners and for myself included. It's kind of like having that business growth mindset where, you need to be able to be thinking beyond this exact moment. So it's like, oh yeah, it might be easier and cheaper to go ahead and piecemeal this. But if I have the vision of the $100 million business or whatever it is over here, what's the best decision for me long-term, not short-term?
Right. That's good.
You've helped me to think about things that way, rather than just like, hey, don't hire somebody per file or hire a couple people, fulfillment per file here and there, and kind of just piece it together, because that's going to break when you outgrow that. And then you're going to have two problems to fix, right?
Right. Yeah. You just got more problems to fix. And then do you think, what is the likelihood that this person that they will take, are you going to make them a job offer? What are you thinking?
I speak to them again on Friday, and then they're going to bring me some information from them, and then we'll go ahead and we'll have more to talk about next episode. So I'll have a little information.
Okay, so it may proceed with it. Do you have a backup plan if this person doesn't work?
Yeah, I'm going to continue to interview people. My deadline for myself is March 31st, right? So right now on the recording, we're kind of beginning end of the first week in January. So I want to make sure that I make the right decision, and rather than just hire just to hire. And then
that's smart. Take your time. Yeah. And then do you have given any thought to like testing? So like knowledge testing of the person. So what are you doing there? Curious.
Yeah. Based on our discussion that we had, you and I, definitely asking them how they would handle certain circumstances, certain files. What I found with that is that I've learned quite a bit from their responses, in fact, right?
Like,
how
if they're good, you should be learning from them. If you're sitting there going, you're not seeing, then that could be a yellow flag. Or red
Quite frankly, I'm not the greatest underwriter. So to be honest with you, like I'm very average. So it's like, I want the person to wow me. I want the person to be like, hey, it's like, perfect. This is great, because I'm a fantastic, lead generator. I'm fantastic with people and that sales, but I want somebody that can wow me at underwriting, where it's like, they know 10 times as much as I do. That's the goal here. That's really the reality. Yeah.
That's really good. Okay. So you're going to do some testing. And then what do you think that once you get this person hired, so let's assume we roll, let's play this out. You get this person. What do you think the next problem that you're going to need to solve is?
That's a fantastic question that I don't know the answer to. I think that we'll see how the business progresses from there because we could run into all kinds of landmines that I don't know. I know that you can foresee what that was going to look like depending on how we progress, and that's going to be the fun part of this show. We'll go kind of episode to episode. You'll probably
That's what I'm kind of leading the question here. So I think like there's that I want to change directions in a second here for the last part of this conversation, but yeah, I would suspect that like I think you've already dialed in your customer journey and you got processes. So part of it's just going to be getting them into your ecosystem. And one of the things I love to say to new people is that when you join a me or work with me for your first 90 days, you got fresh eyes. And so I say to them, if you see something and you're not sure why we do it, ask why. And we may have a good reason and then you'll understand. And we may not. It might be that I just do it because that's what and it's not. And so what happens is you can allow them to help you improve your systems and it gives them a voice to say, hey, wait a second. I noticed that this and then you could say, oh, here's why we do it. And they go, oh, I get it. Or they can help you improve it. So they can help you right from day one instead of them sitting on their hands. Because once people are in an environment for long, you don't notice things anymore. You don't question, you just do them. Right. And
I love that. I love the idea of opening the lane up to fresh eyes. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, you asked a second ago what's going to be around the corner, and to be honest with you, or what I see for me, and maybe not so much a challenge. You'll be able to foresee the challenges quicker than I can, but more so for me is going to be where I see kind of the next, like the goal is. So we have a big dollar goal, whatever. You know this book right here of your friend here.
Oh yeah, Wally. Yeah, 24/7 mindset.
I'm obsessed with the model and the idea and the way that you've talked about it several times, and the idea of actually properly taking advantage of the referral kind of partner network. And, I'm at the doorstep. I've got some phenomenal partners. I have not tracked effectively. I know that I'm giving them 10 times more business that's coming back. And I want to be able to, I know that Wally talks about really focusing on one thing at a time, but when we get past this, I want to really at some point in time throughout the year, figure out a good way to start to implement, really connecting with referral partners and being able to take advantage of that. Because I feel like that's kind of like, between that and like the really being able to develop my business that way.
Right. That's really good. Okay. So let me ask you this now. And I think this is something I'll check in with you from time to time. What does your day look like? So how are you, because it's going to change. And I think would be interesting is to be, what does Nate's day look like today versus 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? So what does it look like and how do you fit in the things that because I think that'll be interesting for listeners as well to follow along.
My day is extremely consistent and it has been for many, many years. I just plug and play the stuff that I'm doing. So I get up in the morning early like you. When I say early, I mean, depends on the day. It used to be always 5. Now depending on exactly what my schedule brings, it's pretty well between 5:30, sometimes a little bit before, sometimes a little bit after, but within that range, get up. I immediately go to the gym. I don't even, people want to hear this as well because I'm a fitness guy. I don't eat. I go fasted. At the night before, everything is ready. Mostly not because I'm super prepared, but because if I wake up my wife, she'll kill me. So my clothes are ready. Everything, my gym bag is ready. Everything is ready. My lunch is, I prepare food like for days in a row. So my food's ready. This is every day of my life. Yeah. Everything's prepared. I literally get up out of bed. I walk out. I grab my stuff. I go to the gym. I get to the gym, clean myself up a little bit, workout. And from there, it's usually straight to my office. Sometimes it might be to meet a partner, a realtor partner or whatever, what have you, depending on the day. But those might switch. But usually it's straight to my office. And then I get right into my uninterrupted, high leverage activity right away, like immediately. The first.
So what time is it that you roll into the office?
Between 8, usually around 8, like 7:38.
And then what is that? What would be an examples of high leverage activities that you're doing right now? And these are questions I'm going to come back to. I know that I'm going to assume the workout food thing is going to not change. What I'm interested in is what happens when Nate gets to the office today versus when you have staff versus at the different levels of your business. And so what does high leverage activity look like for you first thing?
Lead generation, reach outs. Always it's going to be, I understand and recognize in business that if I'm not generating leads and bringing in business, nothing else matters. Nothing ever will matter. And that stuff dries up and you have to always do it forever. It's like working out. The 2 parts of my day that I start off with are the 2 things that will never be able to stop. And that's going to be exercise and nutrition, and then some kind of feeding into the system, which is lead gen to some extent.
Okay, I'm going to get really specific. I know we got to wrap up here in a minute, but does that look like phone calls? Does that look like videos? Does that look like social media posts? Give me examples of what you're doing there.
So it's not social media posts. That's scheduled and that's done in another day. It is though phone calls, DMs, contacts with realtor partners. It's not working on files. It's not clients. It's going to be realtor partners or lead gen, whether it be any of my partners. It's reach outs. It's going to be making phone calls that I've neglected to make. If there are clients that we're working with, I'm working with a partner together on. That's kind of it's on my sheet here. I've left it drift a little bit longer than I'd like. Give them a call, see how they're doing, check out how was your holiday, that kind of stuff. It's going to be just touch points and lead gen. That's all it's going to be. There's nothing else there.
Okay. And how long do you have a time from 8 till when? Is there a certain time that you cut that off?
Yeah, I usually do that for about an hour and a half kind of thing, 2 hours, depending on the day.
8, so 9:30, 10 o'clock. What is the next stage? What does the next stage of your day look like? What do you get into then?
Well, I'm eating my highly nutritious food next, and then that's all they're going to care about.
They're going to be like, they're going to be at some point. We're going to do a show just on Nate's nutrition and the whole thing. But we'll get there in time.
Day in the life, yeah. And then things will flip flop, because sometimes I am doing everything for the most part myself still. So there's going to be like files that need working on, lenders that need reaching out to, that sort of stuff. So it's for the most part from there, it's going to be file work. I'll do that for a couple of hours. I can get everything done that needs to get done for this business from the time I walk in the door until about, around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I work direct. I'm not distracted. I'm not on social media. I'm not doing anything else but just working. And then after that, I remember I have multiple businesses. I own multiple properties. There's other things I tend to as well. And that stuff comes later after the mortgage business.
When do you do client calls? What time of day?
I do all the discovery calls. So I'll batch schedule them. So I'll know in one particular day, it might be, so for example, tomorrow it's going to be all after 3 p.m., right? So it might be from 3 to 5. It might be, these are 15-minute discovery calls, strategy sessions where I need to do them. Yeah. I'll batch them together and block them all in together. So it's not 9, 11, 12, 15, 1. You can't get...
You're switching gears all the time. It's kind of like it's when you go to the gym, you're working out. When you're prospecting, you're prospecting. When you're doing discovery calls, you really are creating, and then there's less...
Blocks.
Yeah, blocks. So that's really good. So those are later. Are they always later in the day?
No, definitely not. Sometimes they are right after my highest leverage activity in the morning. Sometimes they'll start at 11 a.m. I'll go straight from making calls to realtor partners and connecting with folks right into a couple discovery calls based on, if I know that in that particular day, the folks who are going to be available at that window, then I'll do them then. And there's no direct science, because I have to be a little bit malleable.
You're flexible. You're inflexible on your key things, which are fitness, nutrition, and prospecting. And then you're flexible on the other things depending on when you need to do it and your other business demands. Okay, this is really helpful. I'm almost done. And there was one last question I wanted to ask you. What was it about? Oh, I know what it is. And then we'll continue this on our next call or next time we chat. How do you not get, and I've talked to mortgage brokers, they sit down at their desk, they're going to do prospecting, but they got a file that's on fire. And it's I know it's on fire, and I know it needs me to hit it with a fire extinguisher. How do you ignore it? And do you ignore it? And if you do, how do you ignore it to do the prospecting and then pick it up after?
That's such a good question. And I'd be lying if I said that I can ignore it 100% of the time. Nobody can. I do have a barometer of the degree of fire, and I'm pretty good now. I think at first I didn't do as good of a job at it, right? So
you didn't know if it was how it was just a small
everything's
fire.
Everything's a fire.
Yeah.
It's oh my God, I need a license. Oh my gosh, everything's a fire, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now you know what an actual fire is. So I think that comes with experience and perspective and understanding the needs and the demands. And I understand that right now, I'm the one that's putting the fires out as well. So I do have to tend to them. But it's really me understanding the level of fire. If it's an absolute, if we're closing tomorrow, it's a massive issue, I'm taking care of it now. I'm dealing with it now. And I'm also a now kind of guy, right? Where it's if things that need to get done, even if it's just stuff I hear from you to do, if you gave me a tip right now or a suggestion to do, I would go and I would do it right now. I'm not going to wait, right?
I know, you're done. Okay, done.
Yeah.
What next?
It's the shiny object syndrome. You did the session first. I have it on the wall here.
Yeah.
I'll show the ones who are on YouTube, right? There was Scott's And it's like, as soon as you said you could do this for your realtors, I scheduled it the next day, right?
Right.
So
Okay. Well, and next show we're going to talk about how that went. So I want to get feedback on that. So I'm writing notes for myself. How did the that go sessions with your realtors?
Yeah. So to answer your question, the level of fire is really going to be determined on that, but it's just a matter of over experience, knowing that everything is getting put aside during this block.
Right. Just like you're not. I mean, to be fair, what I remind people of is that when you're at the gym, you're not trying to put that fire out. If you're sitting there with your spouse, you're not trying to put that fire out. If you're on a discovery call with a new client, like we are able to focus and put it aside. We just don't do it. We do it selectively, right?
If Nate sees you at the gym and you're looking at your phone, I'm going to come over to you and smack you in the back of the head and take your phone out of your hand.
Shoot. You're probably going to smack me when we next time we go to the gym.
But the excuse now is people say, "Oh, my workout's on my phone." Yeah, but I mean, really, in reality, though, nothing. If you're there, like it's like an in CrossFit, there's a term called AMRAP. You know what it means now. You didn't before, but it stands for as many reps as possible. So your lifestyle should be AMRAP. When you're focusing on something that you're doing, you need to be doing as many reps as possible at that one thing only. Nothing else breaks your focus. The same thing goes for your workout, or when you're doing prospecting, you're making calls, you need to be focused on that one task only, or else you're never going to make any progress.
Yeah, that's so good. Okay, last thought I'm gonna share, then we'll wrap up. Is that I remember listening to Reid Hoffman, who was founder of LinkedIn, and he was at PayPal, and he said that when they launched PayPal, one of the things they had to do was let small fires burn, and they let a problem that because they had to fix the bigger thing. And so what you're telling me is that, and this is something you're a skill you're developing, is that you're looking at it, recognizing it is a small fire. It can wait till 11 o'clock. It does not need me to deal with it 8 o'clock in the morning. I can do my prospecting. But there are fires, like you said, tomorrow this thing needs to close. Okay, that one I'm going to jump on right now because I don't want that to end. But most of the time, it's a fire that can wait until your actual underwriting time.
That is such a good analogy. And I'll tell you that a lot of people on this call, again, don't balance as many things as I do. But the truth is that happens to me all the time. Today, for example, I'll be sitting there and I'll get an email or a call from somebody that the windows for a project that we're supposed to do, that we're supposed to be delivered, didn't show up. So we've got scheduling, we've got swing stages, we've got staff, we've got everybody there. The windows didn't show up. I'm working on something else right now that has to do with my mortgage business. I can compartmentalize it, ignore that, and continue to focus on what I'm doing until I get to that, right? So yeah, it's a perfect analogy. We have to really learn, focus on what we're doing, because those small fires can burn if they need to. We'll get to them when we get
They're not going to burn everything down. Okay, Nate, I really appreciate it, man. We're going to talk again soon. I'm going to see you next month in Kelowna. I can't wait. And this is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks. Bye for now.
Thank you so much. It was amazing.
Hey, thanks again for listening. And hopefully you felt inspired and motivated from this conversation with Nate. I absolutely love talking to that guy. I could talk to him for hours. He is my personal trainer. He's not technically a personal trainer, but he is my personal trainer. And man, I got to tell you, I have absolutely loved following his program. The guy knows his stuff, right? And he's incredibly coachable. And, he's obviously very ambitious, but there's also a humility in saying, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to find someone that knows how to do it, and then I'm going to copy it. And if you're in the mortgage business, like honestly, the best thing, and I touched on this in the episode, but I was not coachable in my 30s. Like I swear to God, if you knew me, I would take coaching and I would not follow it. I would always think I'm too creative. I can this. Don't do that. It's like, imagine if you got somebody who's built IKEA furniture and they build a great map for you how to build the IKEA furniture. And you're like, I don't need that. I'm going to figure it on my own. By the way, in my 30s, I used to do that too. I would be like, I don't need it. But how hard can this be? I will build it. I'll build this IKEA furniture. And sure enough, I'd be done. And then one of the panels is backwards or something. I'm like, damn it. Take the whole thing apart, put it back together again. I no longer do that. I will not build anything without looking at the instructions. I do not, maybe it's because I'm older. I hate wasting time. And so I always want to find somebody who's done what I want to do and give me advice so that I can make less mistakes. So the purpose of this show is to help you with that if you're trying to scale your business, whether it's from 20 million to 40 or 40 to 80. But in any case, thank you for listening. I really appreciate you as a listener. A couple ways you can stay engaged. I send her an email every week, Peckford's Playbook. I share some insights, things that I'm learning. You can get on that by clicking on this or hit me up on social or email me, scott@ilovemortgagebrokering.com. Of course, you can find out more about what we're doing at Bricks at ybricks.com. That's ybrx.com. And I will see you in the next episode. And as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is who's got the answer. This podcast is designed to provide some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.